provide feedback, you can see the address and heading to it, it's open. So it's good.
Okay, so hi again. I want to tell you about basic of packaging of RPM. So this is really the beginning. So how many of you created some RPM package already? Raise your hand. Wow, a lot of you. So I'm not sure if this will be helpful for you because this is really basic. Or another question, how many of you still struggle to know what those sections and tags in RPM specs are for what? Okay, so this is for you. Okay, and I have to give the credits where needed. These slides are originally created by Spot. I'm using it because they are best. So, okay, we will create during this workshop some basic package. It's in ARM, it's already in Fedora, but you have no require, so it's a very simple package, and we will package it as RPM. We were that some packages are more complicated, and some packages are way more complicated. So this is really simply stuff we are doing here. During this half an hour, we will do some stuff. So and you may don't understand some parts, so feel free to ask me question anyway. Don't postpone it till the end. Just ask me anyway. Right now. So you will need this this stuff. So those packages, Fedora packages, rpmbuild, YAM or DNF, RPM DevTools, probably rpmlint and patch. Oh, you will not need patch, but it's nice to have anyway. And we will package this software, which can be downloaded from this URL. So please download that, or at least note this address, so we can continue. I will try to go really fast over the theoretic part, because that would consume too much time, and I would like to keep it for the real work at the end. So assume that you want to do RPM, so you do know why we use that. So who doesn't know what's RPM for? Why it's useful? Everybody knows. Super. So if I would tell at least one part why RPM is still good as delivery of software for me, that would be auditing and security. I know that the RPM I get is sign it, and I can verify it, and RPM do that for me, because it will tell me and yell at me that the GPG key didn't match, and I always know which files belong to which package, and if I want to remove package, to remove all the files. That's not true for CPAN, GAM, and PyPy. It's only one way. Install it on your file, on your disk, and there's no way back, and a mess start growing on your disk. So, okay. I encourage you to read this wiki page, Fedora Packaging Guidelines. It's a long reading, and it's worth. It's basically the best practices for packaging. And if you ever have some question how to do something or why we are doing something, it's written there. It's quite long, but definitely word. It's for the common cases. Of course, the life is not black and white, so there are always some exceptions. Speaking of Fedora, there exists FESCO, Fedora Steering Committee, which can waive you some exceptions. So if your exception is sane, and you have reason why not do it as documented in packaging guidelines, it's possible. Okay. While you can install your software normal way, like make, install, the RPM is much easier. It's easy to install, easy to remove, but only with good packages. It's tool as any other, so if you do it wrong way, you can mess your or somebody else's system the same way as you provide some install shell script. You can do the mess in that shell script as well. You can do the mess with RPM packages as well. So if you do that correctly, it will be easy. Dependencies resolution. One of the most features of RPM packages define the resolution, the dependency. There are tools, YAM and DNF, which can solve it and install the dependencies for you. So it's super easy, and you don't need to care about that. Okay. If you start with RPM packages, you usually find some spec file generators or some tools which generate the spec file for you. There are many of them. Sometimes those specs even work, but remember that something functional is not the same as good, so don't depend on them. Sometimes it is good start, and you can tune it up. You nearly always need to tune it up, and never never package pre-built binaries. Try to always build from source. Of course, it's not always possible, especially in the commerce zone, but in open source worlds, it's we try to avoid that, and it's not permitted in Fedora. While you later find that RPM has some checks during build phase, you can disable them, but it's way to disaster. So try to not disable those checks. They are there for good reason. Okay, some crash course into RPM usage. There are basically two ways how we address RPM. We use file names and package names. Sometimes we use file name, sometimes package name. Don't confuse those two. For example, we install packages with RPM I, and we use the file name, while when we query the package DB, we use the package name, not the file name. Again, removal of the package is used with package name, so we call rpm-e, call fish, for example. E as erase. Okay, what we will do and what will be a result of our work is source RPM. that is file which contain the spec file. That's the stuff which we will create here, and the tar file. Sometimes even patches, not in our case right now. We install those source RPM with file name. So RPM install and source name. While binary packages go directly on your disk and are recorded in PackageDB, source RPM are not recorded in PackageDB. They are just copied into the rpmbuild directory. The tar files go into the sources, and the spec file goes into the spec directory. And they are treated like normal files, while you can remove them with this command, and not using neither file name nor a package name, but spec file name. You can remove them as normal file using rm and the file names, and you will not break anything. Okay, if you get the source RPM, you can, and you want to rebuild them, you can quickly execute this command, rpmbuild --rebuild, and it will install those source RPM and build them. For building is used the command rpmbuild -ba and the name of the spec file. It has various phases, and you can stop in some phase. For example, rpmbuild -dp stop immediately after the patches are applied. There are other stages like C for compile, which say after the build phase. You will see that in a moment. And that's all. While you can build for different architectures with rpmbuild using --target, I don't recommend that because it will not work with every command, and some software try to detect your environment and run according to that. So I don't recommend that. Okay, now we are coming to the more interesting part, RPM macros. You will see in a moment that we will use a lot of macros in spec files. They are just like variables in the shell script. They can act as integers or string. It's much easier if you always treat them as strings. Many of the common macros are predefined. You can run the rpm show rc command. You can run it on your notebook right now, and you will see a long list of macros which are already defined on your system. If you run rpm -evil and macro name, rpm tell you how it evaluates that macro. So it's sometimes useful if you want to know what shared state dir is, if it is var or user or something like that. So you will run rpm -evil and eval, and it will tell you what's the value. Most of the system macro begins with the underscore, like the bin dir, which expand to user bin. And it's good to remember some of those system macro, like bin dir, system config dir, or something like that. Okay. And historically, we have two ways how to define and how to use macros. One way is to treat them like shell variables with the dollars prefixed. Or you can use percent sign and name of the macro. It can work without those parentheses, but most developers use those parentheses around the macro name. It really doesn't matter which format you will use, but stick to one. Doesn't mix one kind of variables and second kind of variables in the same spec file. It will confuse other developers. Comments. You very often want to add comment. In spec file, we use the hash sign. This one, this symbol. Everything after this hash is treated as comment. While this is true and is treated as command, be aware that macros are still expanded even after the command. Sometimes it doesn't matter because if you use, for example, bin.dir macro in the shell, you can it just expand to string, which will be treated as comment anyway, but you will later, not in this session, but later you may find that you can use even commands in those macros which do something which can make difference. So even if you comment out such macro, it will be still executed. If you really want to comment out the macro, use double percent sign in front of this of the macro. So instead percent global, use percent global, and then the percent is treated like 1%. And it's like literal character. Okay, system macros are defined somewhere on the disk, or leave somewhere, I don't know even. But you can create your personal macros. They are defined in rpm macros file in your home dir. Create a directory right now, then that file. And you may put there some macros, I will tell you later in next slide. Just be careful when you are creating spec files and using your own macros that those macros are not presented on somebody else's system. So if they are rebuilding your source RPMs, and you depend on that macro, it will fail on their system. It will fail on Koji, in Copper, etc. So it's good for redefining some system macros or defining something like you can define macro my home system, and in check phase when you are doing test you can see, okay, if my home system macro is defining that I will do some system check because it calls some machine in my internal network which is not otherwise available or something like that. Okay, another thing we will need is this structure, rpmbuild, rpms, build root, rpm. You can either do that manually or you can call rpm-dev setup tree which do that for you. So if you execute this right now, it will create this structure for you. You can check that. And before we proceed, one more warning. Do not ever build RPMs as a root. Always do that as ordinary user. We will do the variety of stuff and maybe even bootstrapping and different stuff. And there can be something like rm-rf / remove everything in build root. It can be there. So if you run that as a root, you will lose your whole disk. If you do that as a user, you hopefully lose only some part, hopefully only build root, if you use smoke or something like that. So never do that as root. There are other reasons, but yeah.
Shouldn't there be a slash first line? One more slash?
Yeah, there should be slash. Sorry. Okay, now back to the RPM macros file. There exist some interesting macros, like the _smp_mflex, which are passed to make files, and I highly recommend you to put there something sane, which suit your workstation. You can put there -J3 or L3, which is usually number of CPU or +1. Then your compilation and build time will be much faster. J is how many concurrent threads should run, and L is how it will spawn more threads to make file until your load hits this number. So, which is quite similar, but if there is more EO intensive task, the L variable is much better, the option. And then you can specify some test which you can run, and you can define some, and you can use some tests which are shipped together with RPM or RPM build, I don't know. They are presented in RPM DevTools package, and there are more than these two tests. You can check them, what they are doing, and you can or don't need to use them. Okay. And now some real thing. Spec file is just a receipt. It's like cooking. You need to know what you need before you start, how to put those ingredients together, and what you will be serving to user. So similar to receipt, and we have some stages. Preamble, which defined name, what we will need, then setup, where we unpack the files, build, where we make binaries out of the source, install, where we put those files into the correct location, clean, where we clean up after our build. It's mostly done automatically, so in modern spec file we don't need this section at all. And then here we decide what we are serving to users. So we define what will go into the main package, what will go into the sub-packages, and what will be excluded at all. And last but not least, there is a changelog where you always put your name and version of your package, and you will define what's new in that package, what changed from the last time. Okay, so preamble, that's the real initial section. We'll go deeper into that now. There are name, version, license, which sources this package use, which patches, what are the requirements for the build phase and for the runtime phase, and some description for the humans. If you take some old RPM as example, which I recommend you to take some RPM, there are plenty of them, you may see some things which are not needed in those days. For example, build root is heavily used in old SPEC files, but it's not needed right now. It's automatically defined by RPM. So unless you have some reason to redefine it, you don't need to use that at all. With the exception, if you are doomed to still develop for RHEL 5, you will need that. So since RHEL 6 and Fedora 12, we don't need them, but RHEL 5 still need the build root macro, but that's only 1 year and 1 month, so it will be obsolete very soon. Okay, so we will start creating our spec file right now. Spec file is just normal text file. You can edit it with Vim or Emacs, whatever you use, and we usually put that file into the rpmbuild spec directory. So go there and open and create the enum spec there. Well, technically speaking, the spec file can be anywhere because the rpmbuild doesn't check if it is present in the spec directory, but do not create mess on your hard drive, just put it into the spec drive directory. Okay, if you use Vim and have some templates installed, which in Fedora by default is, and you will write vim enum.spec, you will get something like this. It will open the empty template which you are supposed to fill in. If you don't have it and use other editor, you should start with this template, and we will start filling in the gaps. Okay, first is the name. So we are creating package for the enum software, so we will put there the enum name. Again, for various software, there are guidelines how to name it. For example, Python modules are in Fedora named Python dash a name of the module, similar for Ruby, Perl modules, etc. But I will leave up to you to study that in Fedora guidelines. Version, we are packaging version 1.1, so we will put there 1.1. This is hopefully obviously. Release, that's a little bit tricky. We will start with the number 1. And every time we will create or do change in the spec file, we should bump it up by 1 version. Every change, so even if you didn't release that version to public, always make the habit to bump it up, because you never know when you say, okay, this will not go to the public, but sometimes it's somehow get because your colleagues take it during some break and say, okay, this is ready, I will go with that to public. So every time you do some change, please bump up the release. It's not bad if you skip some numbers, but it's bad if you have 2 packages with the same numbers. Okay, but we didn't use just the number there. We used some weird macro there. So what's the dist macro? What this thing? It's a macro. This macro exists in Fedora and RHEL, even RHEL 5. And it's another identifier to mark differences between various distributions. In Fedora, it is FC and number of Fedora version. In RHEL, it is EL and version of the RHEL. And it's useful if you have two packages. For example, Python URL lib package. If you have the same package for the Fedora 23 and the same package for the RHEL 5, same name, same version, and even the same release, they are not the same. Because on the RHEL 5 we have Python 2.4 and Fedora has Python 2.7 or even Python 3. So those files are installed, those modules are installed into the different location. So those packages are not the same. They differ for various distributions. So we added there the distinct, which added the identifier of the distribution. And what does it mean, the question mark in that macro? It means if defined, use it. If not defined, evaluate to nothing. Not empty string, but nothing. So, which is sometimes similar, but not always. Summary. Summary is single sentence describing what a package does. It should be 80 characters long, maximum, and it should not end with the period. And try to avoiding the repeating package name there, like enum is a package which do something. Just describe the part after the which do, say it's sequence enumerator. We will fill in more descriptive part in the description few months later. License is a little bit tricky. We put there under which license this package, this software is released. We don't know yet. So we will put there to do, and we will return to this part later when we will have the tar file unpacked, extracted, and we will have time to investigate under which license it's really released. Group. Group is not, it was always useless, but it was for a long time required by RPM. It's not true in Fedora. I think it's still required in EPL, maybe even EPL 7. I don't know. But if you want to fill it in, you can open user-share.rpm groups file, and there is a list of all those groups which are in the system, and you can choose anything from that group. And I think nobody uses that anyway, so choose anything. URL. Here you put the part where is the software homepage. Clear. Source 0. This tag tells us what source file to use. You can put there the address where you can download that source file, and the RPMs is smart enough to ignore the first part and will just take the base part. So it will take this file and check if it is located in rpmbuild /sources and use that file. It's always good to use the URL because it's information for other developers and automated tools because they can automatically download this tar and check if the checksum match, or for somebody, some developer who comes after you, and if he doesn't have tar file, he can see, okay, where the previous developer get it at sources. So it's always useful to have the full URL there. Okay, why we use the macros here? It's because this part may change. For example, the version always changes. So when is the new release available, and you are preparing RPM for version 1.2, you want to edit only one place and not changing this string. So you can use macro, and you have macro version available which have this value because the tag, everything what is tag is as well macro. So if you are doing new release, you will hopefully change only this part and upload new sources, and that's done, and change log. In your spec file, you should try to use macros as much as possible. If you will use them, you don't need to edit the macro so much. And last from the preamble section is the description. Here you can write some long description. It should be only 60 characters per one line, but you can use as many lines as you want. So put there something, and we are done with preamble. It should look like this, hopefully. Other items we didn't need for enum. You can use patch there, which is patch is again the source, and you put there like patch 0, patch 1, patch 2, and put there the file names which include the patch. The patch should be present in the rpmbuild /sources directory. Yes, question?
I assume if you're doing patch 0, 1, 2, etc., that they will be applied in the order that you specify, right?
Yeah, there is a macro auto setup or something like that, which can even apply all those macro automatically, but you don't need to use them, and all spec files don't use that. And in fact, all the macro spec files use patch dash p and variable patch 0. So it's up to you in which order you apply them. You have the variable defined because this defines the variable patch 0. So you can apply them in any order you want. In fact, it's up to you. But of course, just to have the same spec, you probably want to do that in the normal order. And another thing we didn't use is build requires. This say which packages we need during build time. We don't need them for runtime. For example, when we are building some binary package, we need GCC, but only during the build time. We don't need it for runtime. Once it's compiled, we don't need GCC anymore. So here you specify which dependencies you need for building. And here you can specify which version you need. So this say I need package bar in version at least 2.0. Most then beside the build requires, we have requires, which specify the runtime dependency. So those packages need to be installed for running the package. They will not be installed during build phase. So if you need them for your checks in the check phase, you need to specify them in build requires as well. For most systems, you don't need to specify those requires because RPM is quite smart, and for binary packages, it automatically finds that you are using SO files and generate those requirements automatically. The same for Perl, but there are some languages which doesn't have these automatic requires, like Perl, Python, and Ruby. So for some project, you need to specify it manually. Another interesting part is if condition. It handles differences between OS or some other stuff. You can use condition for variety stuff. But some developers use one spec for all distribution, for Fedoras, new, olders, and for RHELs. So you can see there something like this. If RHEL is equal to 6 or Fedora is smaller than 17, then it requires Ruby 1.8. If it is newer, then it requires Ruby release. So question, why we use the 0 here?
Color to number.
Pardon?
Color to number. For numbers.
That macro actually expands to nothing. There should be
Yes, exactly. Because we have the question mark here. And if the rel macro is not defined, which is defined only on rel, and vice versa, Fedora doesn't define rel, and rel doesn't define Fedora macros. So if it is not defined, it's expanded to nothing. So we will have if nothing is equal to 6, which will raise syntax error. So, do you want to scarf?
I already have.
You already have. Okay. Reverse to requires or provides. Usually, you don't need to provide because a lot of provides are generated automatically. You always provide the path names which you are deploying. You are providing the SO libraries you have in package, but you can use so-called general, how is it called? Virtual provides. For example, you can say that my package needs some web server. And it can be Apache, Nginx, Light HTTP, it doesn't matter. So you can say my package requires www3ew server. None such package exists. But package Apache provides www server. Package Nginx provide www server. So you can install any of them to satisfy the dependency. If you don't say explicitly which one, YAM or DNF will choose for you which one it will be installed. But you can swap them and the dependency will be still satisfied.
Can you what is the syntax of that? So you
Uh,
write like virtual
It's
provide.
it provides semicolon and the name of the provides.
So the www.
Yeah.
server. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we are moving to the next section. Setup. This section is called prep. This. And in this section we should prepare our sources, which mean extract the provided tarball and apply patches if any. So in our case we don't have any patches, so we use just the %setup -q expand it quietly because you don't need to be verbose usually. And here is the case for you. You ask how you apply the patches. So %patch 0-p1 apply the patch 0. That's the macro. So you can switch the order and start with the patch 0 or patch 1 or patch 10, something like that. It's up to you how to specify that.
Sorry, can you show the previous list? So all those 3 lines are macros, or the first is just
The first one is section. It's defined as macro as well.
so it does expand.
So if you %side prep is for you the sign that here starting the section prepare a section. There is install section, build section. So anything beside that is part of the section. I'm not sure how internally it is made. If it is macro as well, which take the arguments or something like that, I'm not sure. It's better to treat it like 2 different things. Like this is special macro which marks start of the section. And this is real macro setup. The macro is quite powerful. You can find more here. It have a lot of options. You can specify how the builder should be named or how it's named in the tar file, if it is named different than name and version. But in our case, it's quite easy. Just this will work.
Questions?
Yeah, question?
What's the meaning of -p number parameter? Maybe I missed it. The last. No.
Here. I have slide special for you. So, if we have patch 0 entry in our spec, we would apply patches here. And the patch, say patch level. P and number say patch level. So how many slashes we are taking away from the file names. You can optionally specify -b like backup and the suffix, and then the original files will be backup. It's useful if you are creating and you have some problems with your spec file and you are trying to figure what's happening there, so you have the backup files and you can compare it. Just be aware that all those patches RPM applied are applied with fuzziness 0. So it's nothing like it. If normal patch applied with fuzziness 7. So if the patch is moved 1 or 2 or 3 lines differently, it will find the context and apply that. RPM needs to match the context exactly. It must be located on the exactly lines which are specified in the patch. So here is what our spec should look like now. So we have the preamble phase, and we have prep setup-q. Now, the next section, build. That's the part when the binaries are creating from the sources. For most binary software where you do configure, make, install, you will just configure here and make. You can use %configure, which again expands to configure macro. You can use rpm-eval and see how it's defined on your system. And you can call make. And don't forget to pass SMP and flags. Because it's not just, because in Fedora it's not just the J or L flag which speed up your building, but there is -O2 or some hardening options. So this is the option which somebody in Fedora decided we want to have there, like recently for the hardening build compiling. If your package use something else than makefile, like cmake or scones, you will tune up your spec file accordingly. So you will call scones or something like that in the build phase. So after this phase, you should have binaries ready, compiled. You can check it by calling rpmbuild-bc, like build and stop after the compile phase. So it will execute the spec file. It will take preamble, prep step, and the build section, and stop immediately after build section. So you can go into the rpm build/build directory and investigate what's there and how to continue. So here is our spec, how it should be. In our case, you should pass to configure -disable.rebuild. So we are on rebuild documentation.
This is a common practice to disable the rebuild.
That's special for the enum. So, for example, you can pass to configure with something. For example, if you are compiling Amplier, you want to specify which codecs you want to build. For example, if you are building something for Fedora, you want to exclude some codecs which are proprietary and you couldn't ship. So you pass the parameters, which it's up to you.
So I can basically disable the building compiling of some specific parts of the source code.
Yeah. Okay, next phase is install. So again, start with the %install. And what's happening there? You are not deploying directly into the build, into the path. You are in build root, and you have the variable build root, and you should place all those files into the build root location. So it's some directory on your file system, and in that directory you should create copy of the file system which will be in your package. So if in our case we are shipping some user bin enum file, so we need to create in that build root user bin directory and put there the file and the binary which was created by during the build phase. So in our case, we have make file, so we just call the make install, but we define the desdir, which is the prefix which should be put before every root entry. So it will install into the build root, user bin, and man pages into the build root, user, share, man, and man dot, one gz or something like that. So in the end, very simple. If you have package which doesn't have make file, you are just creating. You just call make dir build root / user bin cp copy enum binary into the build root / user bin /. And that's all. So you are basically copying the files into the correct places. Okay. For some old spec file, you will find that at the beginning of the section, it includes cleanup of the build root. It's not needed anymore. RPM do that automatically. So you can remove that part even in RHEL 5. So. Okay, and we are coming to the end. And what's remaining? The file section. This is the list of the package content, what we are delivering. When you will be, when you will have more experience, you will creating yourself. But right now, we will ask RPM to tell us what should go there, because RPM is willing to tell us. If you run, if you run rpm build -b a, like build everything with that spec, it will say you have those files in build root, but you didn't specify them in the files. So we will just take them and put them in the files. Oh, yeah, was something I want. Oh, okay, anyway. Oh, while some tools like setup.py from Python setup tools allows you to generate file list, and you can pass them person files -f and specify a file which include the list of the files which should go there. Please never do that, because when new release come, there is new files, and you will never notice, because then RPM will never warn you that there is something new, and you will be creating garbage in your RPM. So always specify that manually, please. Another things, def attr macro is always used in the old RPMs. It's not needed. The default is -root dash, and you will hardly use something else. So you don't need to use that. It's a definition which the first part say which attributes that file will have. If there is minus, it will have the same attributes it have in build root. So if you run in build root change mode for some file, it will have the same attributes in the final package. and this is who will own that file. So this is user root and group root. So if you need for some reason that all packages in your spec file need to be used by user Apache, then you can use that. But it's usually only few files have special attributes or special owner, and you specify them using %attr macro. So most probably don't need this macro at all.
Sorry, about the list of files.
We will return to that a little bit later. Because right now rpmbuild will complain that changelog is missing. So we will create a changelog. So how?
Can I ask?
Yeah.
On the previous slide, for the filter macro, what that if the door is not anymore necessary to include, but do that other requires?
It's not needed. It's not needed since RPM 4.2, which is included even in RHEL 5. So yeah, if you are still doing RPM for RHEL 4, you might need it, but you probably don't do package for RHEL 4 anymore. So changelog. That's just you are telling basically to other users what changed in that RPM. As I said, every change in spec file, you should bump release number, so every change should be documented even in such minor way, minor example changes, something like that. What you are basically documenting, you are documenting the changing in spec file. You probably couldn't document everything in the software itself. If you are releasing new version, then user probably should check the release notes of that software. So you are basically documenting the spec changes, not the software itself. So put there the changelog entry using this format. And we are done. We can run the RPM build. So,
Do you order the change list from newest to oldest, or the other way around?
it should be always the newer at the top. So with the higher number at the top. And it's always asterisk and this format, and then dash something, and those dashes can be more, so you can have more lines of these entries. Okay, so our spec file should look like this. So we still didn't have the license filled in, and we didn't have the files filled in. So let's fill in the license. Run rpmbuild-dp enum.spec, and you can go into the rpmbuild build enum-11. And now it's time to look what's there and investigate the sources. There are the unpackaged sources, so you should go into the files and check the headers if there is some license. You can check for the license or copying file and check the license. Good part is if you can copy whole text and put it into the Google search, and it will tell you what the license is. Sometimes there are subtle changes, so just be careful about that. It can be really, really tricky. Yeah, I can tell you a lot of funny stories, but we probably don't have time for that. So, question?
Can you go back to the spec file?
Here?
Yeah,
Well, so
the first page of it.
will find that our software is licensed as BSD. So again, on Fedora guidelines, there is the subsection licenses. If you click on that, there is a whole licenses which are allowed in Fedora and which are free, some which are forbidden, and all those licenses have some abbreviation. BSD is easy. Abbreviation for BSD is BSD. But some are not so obvious. So if you find some license which you don't know, check that page and you will find the abbreviation and you will put it into this tag. So, done with this slide? Can I move on?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If the source file contain file copying or license, we could specify that in file section. We can use the %doc macro, which just do the fact that it will copy the file into the build root, into user share doc, name of the package, and mark it as documentation file. Recently in Fedora, there was introduced new macro, which is license. It acts as document, but just mark it as license. They have some special handling for that. I'm not sure which one. Yeah, so licenses are now marked as license. You don't need to copy the file anywhere in install section. It can stay in the root of the build, where it is in the build section, and RPM copy that automatically. So. Yeah, I'll skip that. Okay, so now it's time to run rpmbuild -ba. So it will go through the build phase, install phase, and it will print you some warning. It prints some files, user bin enum and user share man enum are presented in build root but not installed. Yeah, this error. So what RPM does, it just basically give us the list of the packages we want to install. So if you copy and paste this into the file section, you are basically done. But we are smart. I said that we should use macros. So we will alter it a little bit. So we use man-dir macro and bin-dir macro, which expand to user bin and user share doc. And we specified asterisk at the end of the man page. It's because you don't need to compress that. I think in our case, Makefile already created GZ extension, so it's compressed by GZ, but you can put it as enum%1 only, and the RPM build, if it finds such file, it will compress it, but using the compression which is right now used. Right now it's probably GZ still, but probably will be moved sometime later to XZ. So if you will use the asterisk, you do not need to alter your spec file when this change happens. So let the RPM compress that file for you. That's all. If you run it, Now you should get binary package.
By the way, why you're not using macro in file section?
You are using
No.
which macro?
Name actually.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, so I said, yeah, use macro as possible. So you can use macro name here as well, and here, yeah. Yeah, but it's always a struggle where you should end up, because there is macro for make, macro for ls. So instead of or cd, instead of cd some dir, you can put %cd. It's hard to read, and so yeah, use macro for everything, but stop on some same level, and it's up to you where the same level is. Oh, yeah, I'm done with this. So okay, congratulations, you have your first RPM created. Next step for you is probably to use RPM lint, because there is two RPM lint like plint and some other lints. So if you run RPM lint on your either binary package or the spec file or the source file, it will tell you which problems in your spec is. Like you can have typo in description, it can be description can be longer than 80 characters. You don't have man page for some binary you are installing, etc. There are a lot of warnings. So while you can ignore them, it's always good to learn what should be done properly. And if you run rpm lint-e, it will tell you how to fix it usually. So. Yeah, if you are looking for some sources for wisdom, you can download any Fedora package, source RPM, extract it, and look how others do that. So learn from the others. And final warning, RPM is not re-entrant. So please never call inside of RPM spec RPM itself. Remember the Ghostbuster, what happened when they crossed the streams? Yeah. Never do that. And that's all. Here are some useful links for you if you want to study more. Some questions? Yeah.
Error file not found man/m.
Just a message for you, if there is just last moment for submission from lightning talks, you can get ticket for the party. Okay.
Okay. So next session will be, which will start in 20 minutes, will be about some advancing packaging. So some of you are more advanced. I will present some more tricks and tips which are hard to miss in documentation. So let's stay here. Question?
During the build section, we use a link. SMP flags is used to define how many cores we use at the moment. If you don't use a flag, will you go to some default value or?
Yeah, try to comment it out in your RPM macros bar and run rpm ll or rpm-show rc, whichever is that, and it will tell you what it will be. And there is some quite long macro
maybe you can say something about mock, that it's useful to try the package in mock, because otherwise it uses the packages on your system. So, do you know what I mean?
You don't need to define build required section, and actually, because you are using rpmbuild, not mock build. So it's
Well, even if you use build requires, it will use the packages from your system. So if you require some package which you don't have in build requires, but it's actually presented on your system, rpmbuild will proceed. Because, for example, if you need OpenSSL, it's on your system, and it will proceed because it's present in your system. But there is a tool called mock, which built inside root, and it will install only very base packages and those which are installed in build requires. So if you are missing something and you actually need it, your build will fail. But it's a little bit advanced topic, so I didn't put it here. Definitely, if you are doing building for production system, you should use mock for building, not rpmbuild. This is some tool built on top of rpmbuild. Another question? No. So thank you.
Flagy jsou součástí konfigur makra. Tam se definují ty LD flagy a takovýhle ASI flagy a tady tyhle srandy. Jako SMPM flag v zprávě definuje akorát věci kolem paralelního buildu. Protože občas se musí vypínat.
No, tak ještě je tam ten očko určitě, ne?
Ten je právě v konfigu. Tam máš C flags, který ti nadefinují optimalizaci pro GCC.
Pýtanie, či to bude dajme testom v ďalšom, ale máme v rámci sourceu aj nejaké failové skripty a rpmbuild alebo mock preskenuje ten failový skript a zistí, že tam potrebuje k tomu nejaký failový modul a hodí to do dependencies. Aby sme to zrušiť, lebo ten failový modul je tam custom na tom systéme, že on nedetekne pri...
Existují filtry, ty můžeš definovat, ale jak si s nimi pracuje. Asi poslední před 2 rokama s nimi existoval. Existují, když se podívám, tam jsem pana Google, existují filtry, ale si můžete, my jsme to dělali z kolekcí, když jsme potřebovali něco vyfiltrovat, takže
Jako se dá dát exclude, jo? Jako do file sekce, když dáš exclude.
No ale to nechce, že jo? To tam chce, ale jenom v těch dependencích. Vidíš, to jsem tam mohl dát.
Mám to přepnout zase.
Auto provides. No, dobrý, takže pojďte sem. To je... Auto provides and requires filtering. Jo, tady nějaký. Requires global exclude from, což je nějaký makro, který on si pak vejde a jsou tam potom tady requires exclude a může se tady dát regulární výraz, jako co se bude exkludovat.
Tomu sa dáva vlastne ten dependency, hej, nie ten názov toho. Áno, dobré.
No, tam může být cokoliv. To může být, že jo, jako buď ta file dependence, nebo to SO, nebo jméno toho balíku, čili to, co vám vadí. No, jako třeba nám zrovna vadilo u těch software kolekcí, že tam byly ty requires na ty SO knihovny, takže my jsme potřebovali vyfiltrovat. Jo, takže se to řešilo tady ty provides exclude. Ale je tam dost, to je hodně interní záležitost, který se nějak nepropaguje, že to je dost odlišná jako v každé verzi, takže my jsme měli problém, že ve Fedoře a v Relu se to chovalo úplně jinak. Takže tam pak bylo, že fakt pro Rel jsme museli využít úplně jiný balíček než pro Fedoru. Auto provides and requires filtering, je to klíčové slovo, jste viděli.
Člověk nikdy neví. Takže v tom setup makru ono je hodně rozsáhlý, proto se tam dává to péčko, aby to nespamovalo skutečně do toho.
Já jsem si právě ptal, prostě, jestli se dá jako jak jsem říkal,
myslím si, že to setup makro to dělá jen podle přípony.
Tam jsem se zkoušel svát ten server rozvojet za to čistý dotaz. A fungovalo to úplně stejně, tak právě mě zajímalo...
Základní přípony to umí, protože on tam podle mě používá jako tar minus a, takže jako tar už sám pozná podle přípony. Ale jako právě, že ještě když to neumělo XZ, tak se musel dělat magii.
Ano, a to jsou takový ty jako, když jedeš moc jako bleeding edge, tak to skrojárný.
To samý s tím Preambledem, prostě tohle je zrovna balíček, který já maintainuju a mám ho pod kontrolou jako i vlastně na tom Fedora hosty. Mám tam prostě commit práva. To sice udělali nějací dva borci, kteří to totálně opustili, ale jako, mám tam commit práva, takže jsem mohl zajistit, že když budu dělat update na Fedora, tak si to rebuildnu dám. A díky tomu, že potom jako vypnu ten Preamble, tak ušetřím strašnou půl závislostí. Jako tam jako na to, aby člověk vybuildil na stránku, tak tam natáhá prostě Javu a XSL a tady tyhle věci do buildroutu a jako je to úplně zbytečné. Jsem si vybuildil aktuální stránku, šoupnul jsem tam jako texták. Jako je tam i prostě ten docbookový zdroják pro tu stránku, ale jako je zbytečný to rebuildit, pokud vím, že to má pod kontrolou. Ještě s tím SMP Enterprise, to jsem právě říkal Mirkovi, že ty kontrolují čistě jenom ten paralelní build. Sem tam se stane, že bývají makefile třeba špatně napsaný a jako potom třeba ten paralelní buildu nefunguje. Jako stane se, že tam třeba některé operace proběhnou jako přehození, takže to je jeden z častých problémů, kdy failují prostě buildy a blbě se to debuguje. Ty věci ohledně hard damage flags a tady z těch věcí, tak jsou v configure macru. Tam je právě nadefinovaný jak C flagy, tak LD flagy, prostě všechny library classy tam. Prostě všechno, co člověk si dokáže představit, že by mohlo být nadefinovaný problém, tak je v configure macru. Jako, častá chyba bývá, že lidi používají .configure nebo prostě pouštějí rovnou configure, nepustí to makro a tím pádem tam nepoužívají ty systémový hardware věci. Potom vzhledem k tomu, že to je guideline, tak jim to někdo může omlátit hlavu a to špatně. Configure makro se má používat vždy.
A když nemáš binární balíky, tak
no jasně, jako prostě u těch C-čkových disky. A myslím si, že jako to configure makro, no jasně, jako prostě...
že já třeba dělám Python a tak.
No, tak tam nepotřebuješ.
To není moc.
Mám majoritu zase C-čka.
Potom jsem tak jako napadá, že mě zajímalo, že třeba to zase stále jakým způsobem se například mapování a prostě některé věci přijde do zjednoduše.
To byla otázka?
Vlastně, když se koukneme na nějakou paličku, takže některé věci přijdou do Unpackage, některé do usery, některé třeba do useru bin. Jak se tady to mapování prostě definuje?
To bylo file standard base.
System hierarchy standard.
File hierarchy standard. To je dobrý si podívat, no. Jakože.
podívat se, co tam je jako definovat. Jako je to součást standard base, jako OSBčka. A jako v dnešní době už se to čím dál tím méně dodržuje. A třeba některé věci, co byly kolem user nebo prostě těch změn, co se udály ve Fedoře, tak dokonce šly proti některým pravidlům, které tam byly stanovené. Říká se, že jsou některé ty věci už prostě zastaralý legacy, ale je dobré se jako na to podívat a jako snažit se k tomu jako směřovat. Jako prostě, když třeba mám binárku, kterou vím, že nemám uživatel pouště, tak vlastně bylo exekuované do dymu nebo user mají být věci, které jsou read-only, user share, určitě. Nebo je třeba uživatelské věci, jako prostě uživatel by sám o sobě neměl podporu. Třeba tam by mělo být to, co teď vlastně se snaží dělat, vlastně pokud máš konfigurák s defaultníma jako věcma, jo, třeba pokud jsem moc z konfig, to jsou prostě defaultní věci, a který bys neměl měnit, jo, tak to nemá co dělat v FTC, a má to být někde user share, protože to se nemá dělat, na co máš podívat, a pak si máš na základě udělat konfigurák FTC, jo. Což jako je věc, která zrovna tahle, která se historicky nedodržuje. No, jako admini ti pak se řeknou, že prostě chcou vědět na jednom místě, kde ta konfigurace je, že se kliknou do VTCčka, že jsou na to zvyklí. No právě, stejně by tam musel být nějaký syndek nebo něco takového. No, už vlastně dělat jako šerpomu minus VC, a se dozvíš na konfiguráku. No, ale to je potom, ty lidi na to nejsou zvyklí. Takže jo, je to všechno o zvyku a jako spousta těch věcí je o zvyku, ale třeba zrovna ty user movie a takovýhle věci, tak ty mi pak způsobily hodně vrásek jako ve file system balíčku, který musí nedodržovat spoustu těch věcí, co jsi říkal, jakože never do that, tak prostě já to tam musím dělat. No jasně.
Co já tady budu mít? Zase, takže mám 1,5 hodiny a když mám, kolik mám slajdů? 27, tak to jsou 3 minuty na slide. Dobře.
Pro mě to bylo přínosné třeba tím, že jsem si některé ty věci ujasnil, jak se to teda jako má dělat. Viděl jsem několik spec filů, dělám to víceméně tak, že upravím nějaký ten.
O tom to je, já jsem teď jsem si stahoval i ten enum z FRPGG z Masteru a říkal, že jsem mě nechtělo psát, říkám, kde to tam budu muset kopírovat, si to vezmu. No a bylo tam spoustu i takových těch věcí, co tady říkám, že se nemá dělat, jako, nebo není třeba build root, že ho tam definovaný, jako historicky, jako viděl jsem ty changelogy, jenom mass rebuild někde do Fedory 12.
Ne, právě,
se na to nešáhlo prostě vůbec.
Hele, to jsem napsal prostě nejdřív spec file, pak mi tam nějaké věci omlátili při review o hlavu, to už jsem se právě nekoukal co. Jako prostě mi nefungovala síť, takže to jsem se chtěl podívat, co mi to tam tehdy omlátili o hlavu. No, a potom už jsem na to nešahal, protože to nemělo význam.
No, jasně. Dokud to jede, jako, ano, každých 10 let je zhruba potřeba, to jsem nechtěl tady, jo.
Jako, když jsem vlastně dostal svoje balíčky, když jsem nastoupil do Red Hatu, taky tam byl brutální cleanup po Timovi Bogovi, který to prostě taky zabalil, víš, 3-4 roky na to nebylo potřeba šahat, takže to bylo... Až se to pak vysere prostě po 10 letech, tak prostě na to šáneš.
Nebo když na to naběhne někdo nový nadšený, víš, jako...
Jo.
Aha,
tak tady...
Co? Ne, tak. Oni jsou ty VGAčkové kabely hodně dlouhé, takže ty projektory to někdy nedávají, že tam prostě ztratí moc signálu.
Já jsem ještě právě tady k tomuhle základnímu workshopu měl jednou přístup ve stylu závodní balení RPMka, kde jsem prostě ukázal, jak zabalím tar za 30 vteřin. Jo, prostě na prase jsem zabalil tar. Jo, pak jsem ukazoval, jak postupně clean up, jakože prostě...
Jo. Rád si stav, že takhle jako v praxi se asi postupuje, že jo. Co tady vlastně budu říkat teď?
Co by se mělo stát, je, že ta dokumentace kolem toho je strašně blbá kodifikátor. Mně třeba chybí spousty věcí, že by tam byl jako odkaz, ale podívejte se na tenhle balíček, ten je zabalený dobře, A je to třeba balíček, který obsahuje kvétečku. Kvétečku se balí trošičku jinak než...
A to máš v těch guidelinecech, tam jsou právě ty specy pro jednotlivé kategorie, Python, Perla a myslím si, že tam bude i QT kategorie. A tam jsou právě, jako, jak se to má dělat?
Jsem tam, myslím, ty, jako, že přímo example, ten balíček se podíval.
Je to Wikina, přesně tak. Teď to je blbý, když lidi QT jako pomalu odešli nebo odcházejí, ale
to máš stejně jako QT.
Pohlídáš to tu chvilku, já se potřebuji skočit na záchod a není tady
ale jako
další.
v podstatě třeba jako když je to nějaká sekce, kurně, co to je?
Dělá nějakou praktickou věc.
No. A tak jako prostě říct těm lidem, co jsou jako správci třeba Python, jo, tak jako aby to tam něco dalo.
Reprezentativní balíček, ty si dal teda konec přestávky, jo.
Počkej, já tady chci ještě projít, co tam všechno budu mít, abych viděl.
A to bliká, to je strašně nepříjemné.
Já už si to probral.
Tak když tam dáš přestávku, je tam nějaký velký kontakt.
Jo, dobrý, tak tam dej konec přestávky.
Jo, jestli pak někomu budeš chtít dávat čály, tak jako prostě kdykoliv řekni, ukáž, já tam skočím.
Jo.
Kdybyste dávali flašky.
Když to zavírá. Tohle, kam jsem dal ten prezentátor.
Ty fakt, jo. Tak to bylo
To jsem dal prezentátor. Tady.
Jako fakt nevím, jestli tyhle můžeme nebo nemůžeme používat. No. Jako vím, že on Zaberan už jednou trošku mě dával, takže jako asi to je úplně, je to možný možná, ale my jsme tady měli strašně problém s flaškama včera. Jo, tady ty maličky jsou...
Prosím tě, Zdeňku, tady když se dá takhle jako přestávka, tak se to rozbliká jako
Slajdy si kopíroval, Slajdy si kopíroval už v Hongkong,
jo? My to taháme z Dčka, a už je to moc dlouhá trasa na to.
No, moc vám to tady nefunguje. Hlásím chybu.
Co jako?
No, že vám to tady moc nefunguje.
Jdu přestávku, že si myslíš přestávku svojí snad.
Já jsem tady jako návštěva. Já tady nic spouštět nebudu.
Učíš si zase?
Ale jo, to řeší to lidi. Ale hodí k dispozici nějaký 60 dní a pojde přestávku efektivně. Byly to možné, ale to se musí If you say, or something procedure that we don't you can always install anywhere. You can specify the just decide, because we have more options. It will choose, you will say, okay, I use type of this, but I can D or like but you can say, you are here. So this is rpmbuild /clear /